Welcome to the first, the last, the Nerdom, the podcast where we dive into all things nerdy, from the iconic to the obscure. This week, our second week of March Madness, we're stepping into the world of horror with a discussion on the 2010 remake of The Crazies. Directed by Breck Eisner, this thriller takes us on a wild ride through a small town that's slowly losing its sanity. After a mysterious virus begins to spread, we'll talk about the film's chilling atmosphere, its societal commentary, and why it's a hidden gem in the horror genre. So grab your popcorn and let's get crazy.
Easy to Lovecraft, they dish the facts. Lightsabers clash and case on their backs. Xenomorphs lurking, Gotham's dark alleys. With every episode, the fandom rallies. The first, the last, the Nerdom with Mike and Tom. Dropping nerd knowledge like an atom bomb. Discussing the cosmic, the scary, the epic. Tune in, strap in, it's all real, authentic. Galaxies far, far, horrors, chilling lore. From Krypton to Hogwarts, always explore. Panels and pages, heroes and stages. Worlds colliding, they know all the phases. Wicked X-Wings and Del X that scream. Phantom zones and vampire dreams. Multiverse open and ready to storm. Mike and Tom in the lab, setting the norm.
Hey, Tom.
Hey,
How's it going?
not too bad, not too bad.
Awesome.
Yeah, our second week of March Madness. We're having fun here. And you thought we'd get a little crazy, so we're looking at the crazies. And then to continue my physical media, I do have the Blu-ray for this. I picked it up whenever it came out, I believe. Um, yeah, it was one of those movies. I can't remember getting it, but I remember watching it or trying to watch it. It was one of those times I had a few drinks, and I guess I was crazy myself, and so I've seen it before, but not really. So this was sort of like my first viewing of it, although I have memories of it, which is weird.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny. As you reminded me before the show, we are this is our second week. When first week we covered a cult classic, definitely a classic for sure. Reanimators,
Mhm,
which had its own life after the film wrapped.
mhm,
This one didn't quite have that because it was a remake, but the way I like to think of it is, or like to say it, describe it is, this was like when they were remaking all those, anything they could grab their hands on to just kind of throw and see if it sticks. Unlike other ones that you just kind of forgot about, this one had sticking power, and I think that is thanks to the fact that it was based on George A. Romero's original Crazies, which is
mhm.
the movies are slightly parallel. They take a different thing, but boy, I tell you, I love this movie because it's only grown. It's one of my favorites. I guess I wouldn't I wouldn't you call it horror, but it's also a thriller, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's a good. Of course, this is back before I knew that I loved horror, so quite so point blank. But I love it. I love the way that that this is the remake of George A. Romero's, and one day we're going to cover that one too. I'm sure. If we get around to it, that would be fun. Actually, it would be really fun to do that. Today is St. Patrick's Day, so although we're not doing anything St. Patrick related, but we are covering our bases because we don't like to get pinched. So we are non-violent types here at the first, the last, the nerdum, and we do not encourage you to pinch your fellow nerds around you, or nerditos, as we like to call our small following. And
Yep.
anyway, but before we set the stage here, I'll go through our high level plugging. And I guess, hey, Mike, you got to put us in the share mode. There we go. So we are who are these guys? Mike and Tom here. We're doing this thing called the First, the Last Nerdom, or as Tom shortened it to First, Last Nerdom. We Our primary channel is where you can find us, meet us, either in the community tab, our post that we'll put out occasionally, or the comments section would be great. Is on YouTube. Um, I believe you are the director of Reddit. Are you not, sir?
I guess I find different subreddits to post on to promote our stuff. But yeah, I'm on FirstLastNerdom on Reddit, and I'm also on X under the same name, FirstLastNerdom. So if you want to follow me on X, you could keep up to date on our latest video releases.
Absolutely, yeah. And also, you also have a presence on X or Twitter, as the old folks, I guess, if you're over a certain age or boomer or whatever you want to call
hmm hmm Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's first last nerdum on X, and yeah, you can catch up on the latest videos. I'll post it there, the announcement there.
it. Awesome. I too am also on X as ApeIt_Ink. ML is my name. Gnome de Plume. Also cover my longer form website where I like to cover cool things, everything in between, a little bit heavier side of life. But on the lighter side of life, like we always find ourselves, we like to try to find these really cool movies, and this plays into our March Madness. Where we will go into it here, but bear with me. I just got to pull up my notes here, and I wanted to mention. So this is a remake. This is basically the military did a boo boo, or maybe it was intentional. We're not quite clear, but an accident happened, and then the military is responding. Although that's not quite how we get to that right away, and I love how this. One of the things that I always return to this movie every, I would say every probably a few times a decade at least, if not a couple times
Mhm.
every 5 years for sure. Not in my regular rotation; it's more in the extended EL, so to speak, that I like this. Because it's so topical. Because as time has gone on from 2010, if you were like us, you had the 9/11 was pretty much in the back end of everybody's mind. Um, you know, about 10 years later, not even 10 years. And you kind of, that was at the time, that was like the big thing. So this was believable in a certain way, but boy, did it get an extra layer of reality that nobody could have predicted with everybody walking through COVID. And it really kind of puts a different kind of tilt on it, since we lived through that time. So it kind of adds an extra creepier tone. I like to say, but the small town, Ogden Marsh, Iowa, I believe, where a mysterious toxin contaminates the water, and it has its effects, and we see that effect like where they really want you to see the Mayberry first on this. But before
Mhm.
we get into too many details, did you have any background with this? This is one that I've actually seen. I don't think I saw it in the theater, but I definitely saw it shortly thereafter, or I might have saw it in the cheap theater, a few months later. But how about you? But you said it was something you kind of watched, but you never really watched. One of those in the background movies, maybe at a party or something.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, like I said, this is the Blu-ray I got. No, I didn't ever sit in the theater, but yeah, and it looks like it's streaming on a lot of the streaming services right now as well. Though it's leaving Tubi and Plex today. So if you're watching us when this comes out on the 17th, you have just a few hours left to catch it on Tubi.
Yeah, and
But yeah, the interviews on this, you could tell it was in 2010 because I guess the big thing at that point was H1N1 that they were talking about, the swine flu or whatever it was back in the day, and how prescient it is because of that. But yeah, like you said, it just become even more topical even with COVID and everything.
well, yeah, you had post 2020 world, drawn, you know, government, and societal collapse. That kind of this kind of has everything rolled into one. And it's funny because when I saw this came out before The Walking Dead. I believe it did before The Walking Dead on the show on AMC, and I always kind of remember this because of the sheriff kind of spot, and we'll get we'll get into that a little bit later, but I did want to say, I guess we can get on to the thing that, I believe it follows the sheriff, Dutton, and his wife Judy, and they are, you know, that they you slowly get wound into this to like where he is the first kind of guy, and there's all kinds of eerie, creepy scenes that I love that are just made for a jump scare to like where, and they hit you pretty. You probably not like a veteran like you, but you know, watching horror films to get a jump startle or anything like that. But absolutely, if you had a lady and you're watching it, they will jump for sure. So you might jump as well, but unless you've seen it before. But even still, it plays very well with that. I was gonna say, what did you think of the whole thing? Like, does this kind of, how was it for you, kind of watching it all the way through with a little bit more analytical eye? Was it enjoyable at all? Did this does this fall into your horror, you know, horror genre that you like or you don't like? I guess where does it fall for you for a horror film? As you are the resident expert, so to
Yeah,
speak.
it's yeah, it's a decent movie. You have it's enjoyable actors like Timothy Olyphant's always fun to watch as the sheriff, and then I didn't realize that his wife in this in the interviews she has a British accent, and his deputy is also British. He plays such a good redneck kind of guy, that Joe Anderson,
Hmm.
that yeah, hearing him with a British accent kind of threw me off
Yeah.
because he plays you know, his role so well in this.
Yeah, I was going to say too. You also have the extra layer of, you know, the sheriff's wife is pregnant, and she's also the town doctor too. So there's a lot of interplay with like first responders, or you know, kind of like these are the kind of people that have to run toward the danger, not away from the danger, so to speak. Um, but one of the things I did like about this that did it in its own way in a little bit, at least for a remake anyway, is that the infected didn't become like a zombie. You know, it was, it looks like from a long from far enough ways away, it looks like, I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I should move the thing over. Uh, it what was my point about the damn thing? Sorry, I lost track of my thought.
You're talking about
Oh,
the
zombies. Yeah, yeah,
zombies or
yeah, yeah,
lack thereof.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because this kind of came out like in an age where there was quite a few zombie movies that were kind of kicking around, but it doesn't, it veers in a completely different way, and you know that because the victims, they maintain some of their intelligence. Like they still have certain skills that they can do, like drive a car. You know, kind of they remember where they were there, so it makes it another level of scary, I suppose, because it's not just like a dumb.
They could use a bone saw.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. There's there's a lot. There's a lot of scenes like there, where it is. It's like a very very bad Black Friday, but with more farm equipment. And I will call attention to. I don't know if I can get the camera to work here, but I'll try to unblur me out here to kind of show something in the background that I have. We'll show it. Yeah, it'll show it. Yeah. Oh, I pulled the pitchfork for a prop from the garage, so um, that might come in handy in a little bit. All joking aside, but yeah, I really I like this. There's just so many aspects of it, and I'm a sucker for Timothy Olyphant. He is like he's always playing a sheriff or a cop or something like that. Even when he did, you know, the Grogu or the Mandalorian, he has that and of course Justified. I don't. Did you ever watch Justified, or did you enjoy any of his other movies or shows?
Yeah, Justified is good. I noticed that one of the guys behind that show Justified, Graham Yost,
Mm,
he's the showrunner on the Slow Horses, an Apple show that I've been
good one.
watching, which has Gary Oldman in it. But yeah, Timothy Oliphant, he's really good, and Justified. He really kind of pulls. He knows how to. make a character interesting.
He does. Yeah. So this toxin, this thing, I think it's called Trixie. Is that what they said it was called in the show notes or the movie notes and whatnot from your Blu-ray? Did they ever touch on that at all?
Mhm. No, there's like three different I didn't listen to the commentary track, didn't get a chance to, but there's like three different little 10-minute kind of puff pieces, I guess, with they had interviews with the director and the major stars in it. Yeah, they're all hugs and kisses to everybody.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
There's also one on George A. Romero. They don't even actually talk to George A. Romero. They just have a few people talk about him.
About him. Yeah, yeah. I think it's called Trixie. That this biological toxin,
Mhm.
this virus, this whatever this thing is that makes people go crazy. It goes and it infects people, and then they slowly lose their ability. They slowly descend into madness until they don't what they cared about before is no longer they don't care anymore. And so you kind of see this initial group of people kind of ping ponging from one disaster to another, and then it's just kind of their tale of terror as they try to escape, while not being pinned down with other people or the military either. And it kind of rolls up like that. I love this too because even when you think you're safe in this movie, you're not. You're safe for like maybe 2 minutes. I also like that. So they know how to keep the terror level high, to keep the engage to keep you pinned to the screen essentially. And I've never seen the original, so shame on me. But have you seen the original at all to this? All right.
No, I haven't seen
It
that.
Yeah, it'll be
But
interesting.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
it's sort of a a road movie from hell, right? Where they keep trying to find a vehicle that keeps getting blown up or destroyed or something.
Right, right. Or yeah, or they get grievously wounded or something until they kind of start dropping, here and there. It, although I think the original Romero kind of made a little bit more of a commentary than this one did. Of course, back then they had the Vietnam War. It was in 1973, I believe, is when the original film came out. So
Hmm.
it's funny how this movie survives and we think about it along different lines because of COVID. And then before that, it would have been 9/11, I would suppose. Or maybe you could make a loose stretch for the global war on terror or whatever. I doubt it. But I doubt that because there would be a little bit more poignant things to point to. But I can see where if the original, of course, the original followed its own time, or its own storytelling. But you can tell how that's just very funny how this movie really doesn't have a commentary to say per se. Like, I mean, aside from the standard tropes of the government screwed us, and the government will save us. Oh, but by the way, the government will also kill us. so so as long as you're not writing manifestos, you're probably going to be fine. But joking aside, um,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know X was a buzz a couple weeks ago about whether or not horror is political or whatnot. And
oh yeah.
a case can be made for this being somewhat political. And in keeping with that, I did invite our political commentary person over, Art the Clown. Uh he's he has a few things to say about politics. Take it away, Art.
Uh, well, he definitely.
I guess he's a little shy, I guess.
Well, you say that, but he's going to come and get me in a few weeks, I'm sure. But that's fine. Wait for that special announcement as we go about this. Yeah, I was going to say,
Mhm,
we didn't really talk. I mean, there's not much to say about the director. I did want to mention that Breck Eisner is the son of Michael Eisner, famous Disney CEO fame. he certainly rose to be his own. He did a pretty good, decent job. I don't. He also did Sahara, and some other ones. The Expanse. Oh, he did. He did. He was a director for The Expanse. So, for the looks like he was good. So he definitely is a accredited director. No issues with him. I haven't seen too many of his things. I think I've seen a couple of his things. Definitely The Expanse, which was very good. So he has good quality work behind him, but he is the son of Michael Eisner. I wanted to mention that, and I believe that the film also. I was going to say I'm all over the map here. I was going to say, well, we talked about Romero. Anything you want to add for Romero that you know of him as a filmmaker, is a giant in horror film in and of itself.
Yeah, I was at the bookstore and I picked up his book, The Living Dead. He was writing this novel before his death, and it was finished by Danielle Kraus. So I haven't heard, I've heard mixed things about the book. And then keeping it political, I also got the book adaptation of Terrifier 2. But no, George A. Romero, he's always does an interesting movie, and he always has something interesting to say, whether it be social or political, or he's like you said, he's comes from the Vietnam era, so there's a healthy distrust for the government, and this movie definitely kind of amps that up and plays with it. It's a movie from the 2000s. It's not scared to get a little gory. Those movies at that time, you got to think back to like Saw and those torture porn kind of movies. This is sort of like I guess at the tail end of that. So there is some, but it's not over the top. Gore and violence. They kind of keep it somewhat realistic. Like I said, they're zombies, but not really zombies. They kind of get hyped up on I guess it's madness. I don't know. They didn't really get too much into what actually is going on with the people. Is it that they're just kind of reverting back to their id, or is it just causing like madness to the point where they just go on killing sprees? It seems to be that just like I said, they don't lose their mind. It just kind of amps up that bad part of the brain where the teacher becomes goes to kill their students.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, that's why it's all kind of vague a little bit. But it's definitely you kind of get the impression that this was a weapon that got out of the government's control for whatever
Hmm.
reason. That there's nothing concrete to say. Well, there actually probably is a little bit more toward that because of what happens toward the end. But and again, it kind of it goes in there. But we already acknowledged Romero. I just want to say Timothy Olyphant. How could I almost forgot. He is in one of my all-time favorite Western shows of all time, which is Deadwood. So if you if you've never seen Deadwood, go see Deadwood. It was on for about 3 seasons. It's about, but it was a pretty hot 2 or 3 seasons. Very very good classic TV. Before, I'm surprised people don't talk about it a little bit more. But he plays that that West static kind of hat
He was a
wearing.
sheriff in that one too, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah,
Or no?
I believe he was. I believe he was, but he was
Or
definitely in Justified, and he was in the Crazies. And the man loves a badge, so he knows how to corner the market on being a righteously angry law enforcement officer with great hair and a swagger. He definitely has a swagger to him too, which is cool. Which is not something that a lot of actors or more modern actors or actresses have, which is kind of like that gravitas. He has that natural gravitas, whether he plays the sheriff or not. But he definitely pulls you in for sure. But and the other thing too is like he's good at it. That we were kind of joking about him always playing a sheriff. but he plays them individually too as well. So that it's not like a cookie cutter, type
Mhm.
cast type
Yeah, he's
block.
in Justified. He's sort of like he plays along the edge of you know he doesn't cross the line, but he really gets awful close to it on that show. Whereas on this one, he's pretty much by the numbers sort of sheriff, you know.
Well, we certainly are not stranger to gremlins on this show. And
Mhm.
I want to say yeah, go ahead and bring him back up here. Yeah, yeah. We're
Yeah,
blaming
and
this
Art.
one. Yeah, we're blaming this
He
one on
might
you,
have had
Art.
something to do with the
Art, I'm watching out for
stuff.
you. You're on my buddy. You're yeah. Gremlins are one thing, but this is another matter. But I'll leave it there. But meanwhile, I didn't know if the folks out there knew it or not. But aside from being endorsed for absolute terror by Art or Gremlinness, we picked up a sponsor. I know that's crazy to say, but yeah, Pete's Pitchfork and Emporium is here for all your farming and impaling needs.
Are you a farmer by day, potentially infected homicidal maniac by night? Do you need multi-purpose farm equipment that works just as well in the field as it does in creating unforgettable horror movie moments?
Well, Pete's Pitchfork Emporium offers a wide selection of premium pitchforks with ergonomic handles and extra sharp tines that practically glisten in the light of a burning barn.
Our exclusive Ogden Marsh model features reinforced steel construction that can pierce a car hood or pin unsuspecting deputies to walls with equal efficiency.
Pete's Pitchfork Emporium, because in these uncertain times, you never know when you'll need to harvest hay or chase down that uninfected neighbor.
Now available with Sanity optional purchasing plans.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
Mhm.
we want to thank Pete's Pitchfork Emporium. And I got one of their models just back there. But all joking aside, I think we were wrapping up the sheriff before the gremlin struck the show. And I think you can probably move on down to the small town big problems. I kind of covered this before, but it actually wasn't filmed in Iowa, but it was actually filmed in Lenox, Georgia, Lnonx, Georgia, and which is part of Central Georgia, I believe. But the funny part was they actually used some of the residents that live in that actual city, um, and that comes through. I don't know which ones, but that really comes through in the scene when you encounter them. They look like real people, which adds to the startling terror nature of it. Like where it's just supposed to be your neighbor down the road or whatever. Of course, if you're in a rural place, it's a little bit more like that. But I was going to say too, I believe the production designer Andrew Mazzini's, he did that. I think he did another one too, but I don't have my notes here in good order. But what do you think about how it showed the world building and whatnot, or did you not really look too much into that for you?
Um, I in one of the interviews they said that I guess towards the end of the movie they're in sort of a gas station sort of slash restaurant, those big places that you see when you're traveling you good distances. You'll run into those big gas station emporiums. But yeah, there was an
Butlers.
abandoned one that they were able to land to film in. So because those places are open 24/7, so they're gonna have some issues trying to try to film in one. But yeah, they found one that wasn't in use, so they were able to film what everything that they needed.
Well, it works perfectly, and depending upon the scenes that I'll kind of bounce between a couple here, but they kind of set the scene for that small town terror take where you have you have Timothy Oliphant's character, Sheriff Dutton, going in, and you can tell he knows these people, and whether it's the hunter, and where he, there's that scene in the tree where he's, he comes upon him and he's just hanging there. It also plays with the what plays with you too, because the even the mortician is in there, and it just, I think what it slowly strips away is your sense of security and knowing the people, because if something bad did happen, you would be relying upon your neighbors and your wherever you live. Of course, the smaller the place and location where you live, the more you're more likely going to know your neighbors or hate your neighbors. I don't know, for all I know. But even in an emergency, if your roof is getting blown off and your neighbor's roof is blown off too, you're all kind of in the same boat, and a lot of that kind of thing, that the small things go away. Was there any particular scene that was like over the top or kind of like made you wince at all, or were they all pretty much taken in stride for you? Like, for you mentioned the uh, bone saw scene, which is bonkers too.
hmm yeah, the bone saw scenes sound pretty good. Yeah, it's yeah, the only thing that yeah, it's doesn't overstay its welcome. It's like an hour and 40 minutes, I think. So it's a pretty good time. The only thing they didn't explore that I would have liked them to explore is the fact that his wife's pregnant. What
Hmm.
does this
What does it mean?
thing what does this virus have effect on the unborn baby? Is it crazy in her womb? I
Right.
don't know. Will it come out as a monster? Who knows?
Right, right, right. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that it was very interesting. I mean, they don't really stick around too long for the details to stick, and really make it crazy. um, did they talk about any of the behind the scenes stuff? Was there any kind of, was it a set, or did you get the impression that there was any drama at all?
It's one of those, the interviews are all that the studio put together, so it wasn't, it's all hugs and kisses, like I said, and everybody loved each other on the interviews. So yeah, the they talked about how great Timothy Oliphant was, and
Hmm.
um, you know, nothing too earth shattering as far as the interviews. Like I said, the biggest surprise was his wife in the movie was British. That Radha, whatever her name was,
Right, Radha,
um,
Radha Mitchell. Hmm.
Mitchell. Yep, she's British, and his deputy's British as well. So that's the things that kind of threw me off. But that Joe Armstrong. But yeah. No, they also talked to there's a teenage girl that I guess I guess she works with her at the doctor's office. And they kind of team up on the venture, and but yeah, they talked to her a little bit in the move in the interviews as well, and they talked to Breck Eisner.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh God, I forgot about that. The barn scene with the thresher. That's like a whole other. That's a whole other subgenre in and of itself. Yeah,
Yeah.
you get the feel like there's just like a feeling of like slowly stripping away where you can run and hide, and they play that game with you all throughout the movie. Is what I got from it. But they did a very good job. I had in my notes that there was a little bit of issues with trying to get this off the ground, and it had bounced it around. At one point, Brad Anderson of Session Nine, Fane was going to direct, but then it got changed around. They found the right man for the job. I think the script went through a few different writers too.
Yeah,
But
no, that was one of the things they did mention, that it was um they had more of a military focus on one of the screenplays, whereas in the movie they pretty much kind of see things through the sheriff's eyes, sort of we see the presence of the military, but we really don't know a whole lot of what the ins and outs of what they're there for.
Right. Well, they did have military advisors too, which is kind of very interesting for like the decon procedures and things like that. I thought that was kind of cool. And
Hmm.
they did face another challenge too in trying to do. Uh, it largely takes place in daylight, which is hard to make scary, unless you're really talented.
Hmm.
But this pulls you along, and you go with it, and it makes sense. And you definitely get the feeling as the movie turns that the military is the bad guy kind of thing here.
Hmm.
But also, because it's not necessarily these people's fault that they got this virus, this whatever the hell it is bioweapon that makes people
Hmm.
crazy. um it is interesting. I don't think we're holding back too much here. We're probably at the 35-minute mark. I don't know that we have too much more fuel in the tank to go to cover the details, because this film has some things, but just doesn't have as much and rich and deep as like like a true cult classic would have. But I was gonna say, did you what did you think of the ending at all? Did that work for you, or did it kind of like raise your pique your curiosity at all, or something else?
Yeah, they're just still on the run, aren't they? At the
Yeah.
end of it, there's not like a definitive answer at the end. Like I said, there's questions about her pregnancy and everything, and um, yeah,
Right.
where they get to, are they gonna, once they meet back up with the military, are they gonna get killed?
Right. Well, and they did have a very humanizing scene a couple times, like with when they were interacting with the military, when they were on the lam, so to speak. But I
Hmm.
think rolling into how it that affected it. What do you think of the music and the sound? I thought that was it was pretty good world building for what it had, and the you can feel the tension through the atmosphere and the music. How about you? Did you Were you similarly affected that way?
I didn't really even notice the music, so I guess it wasn't offensive anyway.
Yeah. Well,
It didn't uh it didn't stand out um
to
too
you, yeah,
much.
yeah. Well,
Hmm.
I did. Did you notice that the way that they lit the actors, like, to just be a little bit different color than everybody else? Just it's a very subtle way, like where you can't see it right away, but as the story progresses, you kind of see they kind of have a look about them, and it's hard to describe. But and I better turn that off before it gets us a copyright strike. But
Yeah.
I thought it was good. Like, again, this isn't like this isn't in its it does things in its own voice well enough, but not enough to surpass the original, I would imagine. Although I haven't seen the original, but that the original is the original for a reason. And although it didn't it kind of sliding into the box office side of the house, like they made it with a pretty small budget compared to today, like 20 million, I think. And
Hmm.
it grossed like 55 worldwide, so it was a success, but it was no blockbuster that it probably
Hmm.
wanted it to be. Um, it did find it was a little bit of a mixed bag, I think, but it was mostly positive from critics. I didn't really pull anyone up. I don't know if you want to pull up Ebert, see if I didn't like it. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. Did
but I
did
will say,
Ebert review this one?
yeah, I will say, while you're doing that, I will say that horror fans did like this. So it wasn't like the best horror film, it wasn't the worst horror film, but it was a solid base hit, is what I would probably call it. And it did perform well after it was released into the rental market, which I think helped. This was probably a go to movie to pick when you wanted a Friday Saturday night scare, and you have the fam, or you just want something a little bit different. Very easy to get into, and it amps up the horror pretty quickly. It's one that I like to return to every few years or so.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Ebert. there's a review from him, but Nicholas Phillips of the Chicago Tribune gave it 3.5 stars out of 4,
Yep.
saying he greatly preferred this cleverly sustained and efficiently relentless remake of the '73 edition. It is lean and simple.
Yep. I'd say that's spot on. I'd say that's spot on. Um, I think we're rolling up here. What do you think? Do you think that it might because of the time that it was released and what we've gone through in the last 14, 15 years since it was released, do you think that adds the gravitas to it, or do you think it kind of creates its own little thing that I think maybe people will like? I think if you were going to do a I guess what my point is, if you were gonna do like a watch through of like pandemic type movies, this is gonna be on that list. Maybe not in the top 10, but it would certainly be in the top, top 20, maybe at best, or at worst maybe in the top 50 of like pandemic type movies that you would, ones that are along that line. That it might stand alone more for that sake than anything else. But I don't. I think we're kind of come up here to the caboose here. Did you have any? What was your final verdict? I guess where does it lie for you?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. They
pretty. It's a decent horror flick.
yeah they did a pretty good job with the practical effects. That
Mhm.
they didn't CGI it. Which if this movie were made today, they would have CGI'd it and it would have not looked good. I guess depending upon what level of quality and state of brokenness the industrial light and magic CGI market is. um,
Yeah.
I well,
Yeah, the there is like a web comic on here.
okay,
There's like a it's sort of like a prequel about look like the pilot that pilots the ill-fated plane
mm,
that crashes into the water supply in this movie. There's a little web comic about that pilot and uh the stuff that goes wrong with him. So yeah, if you wanted some extra stuff, that's on the Blu-ray as well. But since it's a web comic, you could probably find it online as well somewhere.
that's
I don't
funny.
know if the Crazies website's still up.
That's funny. I was just trying to think. Uh,
As
okay,
back
that
in the day, they
so
would do all sorts of little
oh
web promotions.
yeah, they would. Yeah, yeah, no, they would. Oh, so okay, so if we could revisit the ending real quick, like,
Mhm.
you didn't take anything that was implied from that of that because it kind of was implied that that the military was going to come through and just wipe just wipe this mistake off the planet. They didn't really show that, but they implied it a lot. That's why, like I said, it kind of it constantly plays with you. And this is why I like it. I think this is why I like it. Kind of wrapping up my final verdict is they play with you to make you think that there's a safe spot, but like when they zoom out, and then you see they're headed towards Cedar Rapids or whatever. You see
Mhm.
that this thing is not in isolation. So it's
Yeah, they thought they had contained it in Ogden, but then yeah,
no,
at the end the containment area had expanded into
right,
Cedar Rapids. So yeah,
right,
we don't know if it's going to replay itself over again.
right, yeah.
And yeah.
But it would be if maybe it was a little bit, maybe a couple tiers above in excellence, it would probably we'd probably get something really strong from it nowadays. But probably for the better, probably for the best. Because you do want more, but you don't want you don't want schlock or drac where it goes. But I would recommend this. I think I like to kind of like I don't necessarily know. Is it a 6 or 7? I don't know. Maybe maybe on a really good day, maybe it's a 6.9, 7.1, something like that. But it is a very good movie to pull out, put in your back pocket, and pull out when you are in the mood for that kind of. You don't want zombies. But you don't, you kind of want something that's more of a thriller, than the government screwing with you, as it goes. But it's a good one to keep in the back pocket for like like a good Friday night. You haven't seen something, and you're in the mood for it. I think it acquits itself well enough, just not quite well enough, maybe than better than the original. Of course, that is to be determined, because Tom and I both have to. You can't really give an opinion on something unless you watch it, and you probably should watch it quite a few times, really, if we're being fair. But all the us normal people and nerds, we don't where we don't get paid to do this kind of thing, which would be a very cool job to have. Although I'm sure we would just be trading ulcers, well, one set of ulcers for a different set of ulcers, as the stress goes. But I really enjoy this. Like I said, I like to come back to this every so often. Or this would be like a good. I don't know. This would be definitely more of a good gateway horror film, more so than last week's. I think that would be. I think you got to be more intermediate, advanced horror genre fan to really come in on Reanimator, and appreciate what you have, what you're seeing before you. So, as it always is, I'm just gonna. I think I had another joke I wanted to weave in here, but I don't think so. Oh, oh yeah, yeah. The could be I would be able to make a hashtag unless I mention it in the show. But I believe the makeup effects were also handled by the company that did uh, Robert Hall founded, Almost Human, I think is what they're called. But they did Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. So if you are if you're a fan there's a level of quality is what I'm trying to get to, as it goes. But I think we're rolling up
Yeah,
here.
they said
Oh,
that
go
they
ahead.
did the interview Rob Hall, and he talked about how the necks, so they kind of focused on the necks of the infected, that they're kind of bulging or strained there about the neck. Their thoughts were, the blood would be rushing to their head or whatever. So they have the later phases of the infected. They would put more and more blood vessel stuff on the faces and stuff.
Well, yeah.
And and they try to make it as realistic as they could. They didn't put stuff on them just because it looked cool. They
Right.
wanted the director wanted to know why, what they were putting on their faces. That had to make logical sense that they would be there. So
Yeah. Well,
that's what they talked about, and they had a bunch of books of what various stages of, I guess, the blood or whatever
right. Well, the
coming
early
up to the
symptoms.
face.
Right. Yeah. The bloodshot eyes, the disorientation. The
Mhm.
you know until they just start doing something absolutely, just be a nutter, and then start cutting on, just doing something outside of the norm, and they're obviously not well in the head. But yeah, the car, they also kind of touched, they kind of touched on a lot of different tropes too, as we're wrapping up here. Like they did the car wash thing, they did the thresher scene, or the harvester kind of thing, the barn, like we kind of covered everything, even the initial opening scenes. I believe where you're on the baseball field, then you're kind of getting the lay of the land, closer to the beginning of the movie anyway. But
Yeah, and that sure wasn't a field of dreams. More like nightmares. But yeah, no, and they had plenty of corn and wheat fields.
yeah,
um, yeah. But yeah,
absolutely.
it was like I said, a entertaining romp. But yeah. Um Actually, one of my streamers I like watching, he's doing a playthrough of The Evil Within, which is about, these villagers being possessed, and not quite zombies either. Interesting parallels between that movie and that game. But
That That is interesting. Yeah, I think we're coming up here to the caboose here. I think we've said all we can say.
Mhm.
Go watch it. It's a good, solid flick. It certainly doesn't have as much deep gravity of lore and nostalgia as like some of our '80s ones do. But I think as
Mhm.
time goes on, I think Gen Z, who knows how they'll see this, they'll find they'll find everything cool that was once cool, and they'll make it cool again. The first time I ever listened to the Beatles or something, you know, that kind of that kind of vibe. God bless the young folks. But yeah, I think we're coming up to the end. Any other things that you want? I guess I'll pull us back to the talking mode, or actually, I'll roll right into our thing. We are the first last nerdom here. If you like what you see, we do very much appreciate it. As we do this thing, we find newer things. We will continue our series through March Madness month. And next
Mhm.
week, do you want to announce it, or do you want to keep it close to the vest and make it a surprise?
We could talk about it because it was I'm the physical media guy, and there's a couple of releases that came out from Umbrella that we're excited about, and I was hoping we would get it in time so that we could cover it in March. I think it's over here. The ones that I did. I guess I could show off the the Blu-rays I got for future movies. Um, but yeah, the one that kind of held things up was hardware, which I just got. Um, it's a big hefty thing. It's got the hardback book about the making of it. It has the screenplay for an unfinished second movie, and then of course you got the 4K. Um, and then I also one of the movies that we'll be covering for March Madness is I got Filth, which is a Irvine Welsh book that actually the edition I got actually comes with the book. So I'm going to try to read this
All right.
and have it finished for the movie. But for next week, this is a personal favorite of yours.
I have a
We
lot
got.
to say about that. I'm sure we will get into it very much so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that next week for sure.
Yep.
Um,
You Were Never Really Here is the name of it. Joaquin Phoenix. It follows along with our March Madness. Actually, this and Filth were the two movies I was had planned for March Madness, and we had also and then we picked out Reanimator and Crazies to round out the month, and then that's probably going to lead into what we keep hyping here. But Art's going to challenge you to his movies in next month. So
Absolutely, yeah. We're
we'll
gonna
see
see
how
if
far you get into it.
we'll see if I can hang. No promises. No promises. But I haven't to to my credit so far, which isn't all that much. But I haven't noped out of a show or a
Mhm,
movie that is just really out there. Like there's the heavy metal one
mhm,
that I
mhm.
remember that will be with me forever. But holy yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
for a cuss or not, we are the first last nerdum. We're rolling it up here. We're gonna shut the show down, shut the engine off, and get going on our plugging here. We would really appreciate if you could give us a subscribe, like, a comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us what do you think about these series we're doing. I think it makes sense. I think it's also a lot of fun. We look forward to doing the show as we do. But also you can find also on other social media, and for that I'll hand that off to Tom.
Yep. First Last Nerdom on Reddit and also on X. I post whenever we release a video. Both me and Mike will post about it on our X accounts. So if you want to know what the latest stuff is coming out by us, and then also I posted about the AI talking and that that Sesame AI, that's pretty trippy. We played
Hmm.
around with that last week. We didn't do it on the show though. But yeah, if you wanted to have a conversation with AI, that's very interesting. There's actually a video. I have an audio thing where someone played like there was like a drug bust or something, and he had Miles, the AI guy, there, and
Yeah.
Miles was actually lying to to the police officers
That's
and stuff.
funny.
It's pretty crazy. I don't know if we could find the link to that, but yeah, it's pretty crazy what the AI is doing now.
Yeah, I'll put that on the that'll be in the show notes for sure. Um, Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm also available on X. If you want to have longer form conversation and you want to check out where me and Tom are at, we encourage you to go to our YouTube channel. But if you want to find us individually, you can, and at least try to once a week. We don't necessarily have a big back and forth. But like if I see something, I'll share something, or you'll tag me or whatever. But usually we'll see that's where the political thing we got the idea from that from, which is very interesting. Also, which is
Mm-hmm.
ApeIt_Inc. Also available on ApeIt.Ink, my publication long form, and as always, the first, the last, the Nerdom. And I think we're rolling in here. This is about an hour. So so with that, I think we will say we will bid you adieu.
Yep, we're finishing out March Madness again next week. You were never really here, and then my pick will close it out, which is Filth, and then we teased it, but yeah, there's going to be the Terrifier challenge that Art's going to give Mike to see how far he could get into the Terrifier series. Which movie will he nope out, or will he make it through all three?
We'll see. No
You
promises.
Yep, and you could play along at home if you haven't seen the movies and want to do that with Mike. I know the first one's on Tubi, so but yeah, again, the Crazies. It says today is the last day for it to be on Tubi, but when I did a quick search on it, it couldn't pull it up. It's the old one. So, but yeah, it's out on various streaming services, so you could probably track it down there. And then again, happy St. Patrick's Day today. I know both of me and Mike are A24 members, and for today, I just got a text from A24, and they said that the Green Knight's free to view. So if you want to watch the Crazies and then go over to A24 and watch the Green Knight, there's that's a evening planned for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we will always look forward to seeing you next week, and we hope we hear from you in between now and then.
Mhm,
And always,
mhm.
if the
Yep,
women don't find you handsome, at least they'll find you handy.
yep, and
Art,
try to keep away from Art and his gremlins.
Art, what do you, what do you, Art, what do you do? Oh, oh my God!